Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. This is another episode of Wireframe brought to you by Design Systems House. I'm your host, 9D Amato, and today we're going to be talking about Pin GPT. What the heck is that? Well, we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, if you haven't listened to or watched yesterday's episode, which was with Matt Strom on, I think you should. We had a great conversation about Tailwind. If you have some opinions about Tailwind, I think you would definitely like to hear about it because these are opinions from people who really didn't like Tailwind when it came out and couldn't understand why people decided they should use it. And well, both of us, well, you'll have to find out. You'll have to find out how we feel about it and how hot those particular takes could have been. I think it was a great conversation. And admittedly, I think tech-wise, I think the show went pretty well overall. I mean, generally speaking, with different camera shots and things like that. My screen clip flickering, but you know what? Hopefully I fixed that, and hopefully I fixed some other things that you may or may not see or hear in the show. But we're going to be talking about Pin GPT, which is, I just named this thing because there was something in the news recently, very recently, I think over the last 24 hours, 48 hours or so, that OpenAI is considering to buy Pinterest. And immediately I had a kind of like, why would you do that kind of mentality? Now, here's the thing. I'll say that I'm not a Pinterest user. I think I probably have a Pinterest account from a long time ago that I was probably playing with, but ultimately I have really never used it seriously. I do know there's a huge community about it out there, but I don't know much about it. But it seems like OpenAI might in this particular case. But what I like to do is I like to ask AI. We have AI here with us today to figure out maybe there's an opinion about what AI is going to do with AI. So let's ask. Let's see what's going on here. Hey, I just heard that OpenAI is potentially going to buy Pinterest. Why would they do that? What do you think?
I haven't seen any news about OpenAI planning to buy Pinterest, but if it were to happen, one potential reason for OpenAI to acquire Pinterest could be to expand its reach and market share. Pinterest is a widely used platform with a large social component, and OpenAI may see purchasing Pinterest as a strategic to strengthen their presence in social media space and tap into Pinterest's user base. In addition, OpenAI may also be interested in Pinterest's image recognition and recommendation technology, which could be valuable for their AI development projects.
Okay, and then maybe what are the drawbacks to this acquisition or this purchase that they might do?
Like with any acquisition, there are potential risks associated with OpenAI purchasing Pinterest. Some potential drawbacks could include cultural clashes between the two companies, disruption to Pinterest's existing business model, difficulties integrating Pinterest with OpenAI's existing products and services, negative public perception of the acquisition, potential regulatory issues surrounding data privacy and antitrust concerns.
Okay, and then what about just let's think about the users of Pinterest. What do you think their thoughts and considerations would be in this potential acquisition? What are they thinking about this, do you think?
If OpenAI were to buy Pinterest, users may have mixed feelings about it. Some users may appreciate the potential integration of AI technologies of OpenAI, such as personalized recommendations or improved search features. However, others may worry about data security and privacy, or are concerned about the impact the acquisition may have on Pinterest's current business model and approach to user content and data. Ultimately, users would likely be monitoring the situation closely to see how the acquisition could affect their experience on the platform.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's a lot that's going to be able to go into this potential acquisition. I've been reading a couple articles about it, about the feelings of both sides and what is really going on in here. So one of the things that I do want to bring up in this is that a lot of the talk seems to be around that Pinterest has mostly images. That's really what Pinterest is mostly about. But Pinterest has images that are tagged, right? It's very interesting because in other photo apps or photo platforms, right? So maybe even like things like Imager or Giphy. Uh, those images are not necessarily tagged, right? There might be something that basically has it easy to bring up potentially, but not tagged in terms of like what this image is all about or related images, which is actually really interesting. So, what's interesting about what has been done with Pinterest over the years is that people have been putting together their boards, these pins, putting them together into collections that have sort of a theme that people can like identify, or really things can identify, because at that point we're potentially talking about AI identifying what's in this image. So there's admittedly a lot of training data that's there that could be used to help identify images and identify things that aren't text, uh, that OpenAI could potentially use. I think it's very interesting. I mean, when you are looking at the Google ecosystem, they have Google Photos that is huge training bed for them to figure out what to do about imagery, right? And when you'll get things like the Nano Banana and those kind of powerful AI tools that are built off of the data that it already has, right? We've already signed our lives away to Google for those things. So OpenAI doesn't necessarily have that data. That's in quotes, in the largest quotations, right? Because there's lots of different allegations of how the way that they got that data. But maybe this is a step in the direction of, okay, we're going to get this data properly this time. But that isn't to say that there isn't some backlash. And really, a little bit about this, I think, is actually being missed in some of the articles. So I want to bring up one of the articles here for us to watch, or not watch, but read just a little bit. Let's bring that up here. So this is from Tech Radar, and it says OpenAI's rumored acquisition plans for Pinterest provoke fury among some users. There's a couple bullet points over here, which is very nice of them. The first bullet point says speculation that OpenAI could buy Pinterest spark an intense backlash from some Pinterest users. They are concerned AI would disrupt one of the internet's last largely user-curated creative spaces. The rumor, which originated as a prediction rather than a reported deal, nonetheless boosted Pinterest stock price. Of course it did. any attachment with OpenAI is definitely going to boost the stock price. So yeah, this is something that's talking about the users particularly, and how that connection happens. And I actually don't want to go back here, because please don't give me the ads. I don't want them. No, you're gonna. Okay, we went too far back. Let's see. I think it's Tom's Guide. Let me look at Tom's Guide. I think it was this one. So Tom's Guide has an article here. It says OpenAI may buy Pinterest, and it could change how we search, shop, and scroll. And there's a why Pinterest section over here. But I want to go to the bullet points that I found earlier. Please don't click these things. Why? All right. The first bullet point, it says, is massive visual data set. That's what I just said earlier. Pinterest hosts over 2 billion images, each labeled with intent, like kitchen remodel, gift ideas, or travel outfits. That's like a gold mine for training AI and how humans browse and plan. Now, here's the two things that I didn't know about Pinterest recently. There's monetized search. So Pinterest has a robust ad platform optimized for search-driven shopping, something OpenAI doesn't have ... yet. And then the commerce infrastructure, Pinterest already connects users to merchants. If an OpenAI plugs ChatGPT or future agents into the ecosystem, it could accelerate a future of AI-powered shopping. Okay, so that's what's interesting about all this stuff, is that there is a possibility of shopping in here. And I didn't know that angle from Pinterest. I didn't know you could actually shop on Pinterest. And actually, I did look just before the show to see Pinterest, because I haven't been. It's been a while, and they do have this idea of shop prominently in their navigation bar. So shopping is a thing that they are looking for you to do on Pinterest, which is again something I wasn't expecting from a long time ago, being on Pinterest for the hottest of minutes. I always again thought it was a place for collecting, ideas that you might want to act upon. But since it has shopping in there, it's totally possible that, you know, you could have ideas presented to you in a chat interface that you can then buy, right? Very interesting. Now, um, the other thing I want to mention in here when it comes to AI and Pinterest is that about a year ago, which is where AI started to really take off, and you could see it in a lot of places, I remember a story, and I think this was actually a video, but I found a Reddit thread that I think probably sparked it if it didn't already. Um, that AI is actually ruining Pinterest. Now, why was AI ruining Pinterest? Now, granted, like AI is ruining everything. We know that kind of, what is it? Narrative. Narrative is the word I'm looking for. We know that narrative, right? AI is ruining everything. Every time you go to an application or a platform or whatever, AI is being shoved down your face. We know, we know. But here, it's a little bit more worse, honestly. And the reason why it has been worse is because of AI generated imagery. So what happens sometimes, of course, is what I know that I do this all the time is that I'm looking for something very specific on the internet, and when I do this, especially with products, I actually don't go to like Google Shopping or Amazon necessarily for products a lot of the times. A lot of the times I actually go to Google Images to find an image of the thing that looks like the thing that I probably want. And then I use that to then search and figure out, what the product actually is. That happens a lot for me because I have certain features that are in my head or whatever. Now, if we are if anybody is shopping by image, which is effectively what I sounds like Pinterest is kind of doing here. Well, if the images are all AI generated or primarily AI generated, then you're not really getting quality products, right? They don't exist out there. These are just, you know, totally imaginary stuff. We've already seen that in some of the, videos out there with Sora and other platforms that are kind of like showing these models jumping on beds that are made out of cacti. Like, what? That's not real. So Pinterest has been having this problem. This is this Reddit post over here where they're saying every time I search for examples of stuff for my albums, it's filled with AI fake pics. I come to Pinterest for real world examples. It has become garbage. Pinterest should forbid AI images or require them to be tagged as AI and able to be filtered out. This is disappointing, right? So now, as I've read a couple of other news articles, apparently Pinterest has been cracking down on some of that. I don't know how much, because again, I'm not a Pinterest user. I don't know how the quality has improved. I did read about this tagging feature, and I'm assuming if you can tag, then you could also filter. I don't know that for sure, because again, not a Pinterest user. But ultimately, this is potentially the possibility of a garbage in, garbage out, right? This is a problem that we have with the AI today, where there's AI generated content, and it's entirely possible that another AI looks at that content and uses that to train off of. And it's just this vicious cycle of AI being generated off of AI. Okay. And from there, there's always the conversation of, not to mention, of course, the reality of it, which is like, is this thing real? That's an image problem, right? Or a video problem that we're certainly having in a lot of places. But another thing is just quality, right? We're talking about code generation. Is the code that's being generated quality? And Matt and I actually had this conversation yesterday about quality of code. And we kind of landed on something interesting about how maybe the code doesn't matter, but the output actually matters, right? There's something interesting there, right? I'm not going to go too much into that here, and if you want to hear our take on it, you could absolutely again watch that video from yesterday. But again, we're talking about images. That's what Pinterest is really all about. So I think, if there's the possibility of doing this curation of making sure that these things are real, and I think this is actually becoming harder and harder to do. I mean, there's some images and videos that I see out there that it's really, really hard to tell, right? There's something in the back of my mind that is still identifying what's real and what's not. But it's becoming really, really hard to tell. Like I saw a video on Instagram, I think maybe a day or two ago, where like this video was capturing this sewage flood, and this like um, manhole cover just kind of popped up in the air about 8 feet, and this car kind of swerved out of the way or whatever. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is convincing, but I could tell that it's also generated, right? And again, it's getting very scary where it gets closer and closer to the possibility of it, you know, being generated but looking completely legitimate. And we are absolutely at a point where you cannot trust what you see on the internet. You just can't, right? You have to be very skeptical of not just now what we read, because that's been for a while now, but also what you see on the internet. And of course, also what you hear, right? I mean, admittedly, I could be AI. Who knows? I'm gonna tell you that I'm not, but then we're gonna come into a Blade Runner problem. But don't worry about it. Um, but I mean, I actually do embrace AI for lots of things. I mean, I embrace AI here just for entertainment purposes. We all know it's AI. That's what it is. I'm not being uh, secretive about it, right? Admittedly, I've also been interested in like adding, other features of AI to the show over time. But I think I'm getting over a little off topic. I think again, going back to OpenAI buying Pinterest, it also reminds me a little bit of maybe the AOL being purchased by Yahoo or other companies over the years, um, because that's always just been a weird purchase to me, right? Much of the internet has moved away from AOL, and you kind of make you wonder, like, why would you purchase it after so much migration away from it? Granted, I'm sure there's plenty of AOL.com email addresses sitting around out there. And in fact, I just saw this detail earlier today, is that dial up apparently has been plug pulled. It doesn't exist anymore, apparently, any longer. So that screeching sound that some of us used to hear 20 years ago doesn't exist any longer. And that's apparently the statistic of about 200,000 people who suddenly just don't have access to the internet anymore because that service just doesn't exist any longer. So again, it's curious why a company like OpenAI is interested in a platform that you don't hear a lot about, right? It kind of makes you wonder. It's like, why wouldn't you buy something that's a little bit more up to date? But maybe I'm wrong. Again, it's very possible. I don't know enough about Pinterest to really make a good feeling about why, if this is a good direction or not. I'm sure they've done their research. I would like to hope so, at least. Hopefully, they didn't use Chat GPT to figure that out. But ultimately, um, I don't know. I'm really interested. I mean, again, the news is saying, some potential directions here, but it's, it is a social platform. It's a possibility of them buying a social platform. Hopefully, it turns into something better than what's been going on with X and Grok, because goodness gracious, the news going on there is crazy. Um, the TLDR of that, of course, is that some woman posted a picture and suddenly became adult content after someone asked for adult content, just out of control. Um, so anyway, getting social tends to be an interesting idea because it does bring people together. I mean, I think AI has been having a problem with that, bringing people together. So this is interesting. But anyway, you know what? Let me know what you think. You can go down to the Discord over here, discord.ds.house, and tell me what you feel about, OpenAI purchasing Pinterest, or if they should be purchasing something else, or they should not purchase anything. Just leave it alone and stay in your lane, and maybe that's what you need to do. But join the Discord. Let us know what's going on over there. Speaking of the Discord, there's a couple of jobs that were just actually posted. Uh, I think they're both design engineer jobs. There's a recent one from Peacock under NBC Universal. I believe that's remote. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, that's a remote job. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely apply. Go to the Discord, find that out. And then just before that, there was a posting for Dialpad. So Dialpad, which I think is a little similar to Twilio, but I might be wrong about that. So I think they're also looking for design engineer over on that side. So if you're looking for a role out there for the new year, those are a couple that are available to you if you're interested. Speaking of the Discord, also, I just saw before the show that there was a post about zebra striping and how that's a good idea or not. I think that's an really interesting topic to just talk about here on Wireframe. So I might, I'll definitely post on the Discord. You want to see, I guess, the preview of what I might talk about here. But if you have an opinion about zebra striping in tables, you should absolutely join the Discord. Right? I love having a button that just puts that there. It's great. But yeah, that's the short show again here for today. If you want to be on the show, you should absolutely reach out at wireframe.ds.house and fill out the form. I have another person who is scheduled for Wednesday next week, and I will announce who that is at some point next week. Speaking of design engineering, it is a design engineer. So if you are a design engineer, you should absolutely join live on the show to engage. But anyway, let's wrap it up. So that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Look, if you have some time out there, help the show out by smashing that like and subscribe button. It really does help, and it will notify you when we go live. Right? And feel free to continue the conversation on our official Design Systems House Discord, discord.ds.house. Right? And play nice in those comments, and I'll see you on the internet. Bye.
Thank you.